For more on this, we now speak to Pinky Mgobozi, who is the founding director of MDI and is an activist on gender-based violence and femicide. Pinky, thank you so much for your time this evening. And I must say that really it is a sad state of affairs for the KZN province, particularly when we look at the stories coming out in December in that province, where a number of women have died at the hands of people that they know, and also children. Maybe just give us your reaction. You know, how do you react to the recent stories we've seen coming out from your province?
Thank you, Mbali, for talking to me, and good evening to your listeners. It's sad. It's been sad for years, and it is not getting any better. And I think what is most shocking is how more violent these acts of abuse against women and children are becoming. If you look at the recent statistics, you will see some are burned, 3 are burned, 15 are beaten to death, 64 shot, 24 stabbed. So it is becoming more violent. It is becoming more prevalent. And it is not just KZN, but I think the statistics out of KZN are shocking, and they need to say what is it that has got to be done. We'll send our condolences really to all the families that have lost their young girls and their and generally their loved ones in this period.
And Pinky, you're right. I mean, it's certainly not just KZN. It is a countrywide, issue. And of course, this brings me to even the president during COVID-19 saying that, gender-based violence is a pandemic in this country on its own. And it's quite clear when we continue to see statistics of this nature and the manner in which women are killed in this country.
It is very important to also then say, we welcome the statement by the president, but we've got to act like it. We've got to, our actions, our programs must show that we see gender-based violence as a pandemic. Especially, I think I want to draw attention to the intimate partner violence, because one of the things that are coming through now, as you see with the story you've just covered, the people that are killing women, it's either people they know from work, people they know within the community, their intimate partners, and their family members. And we've got to really advance a societal approach, a societal response that is not just waiting for the police to find a body. You know, getting to a point where we are just about police finding bodies is not a response that we expected from the president when he declared gender-based violence as a national pandemic.
And that makes it even more disturbing, right? The fact that these perpetrators are known to these women. It's most of the time, it's their intimate partners. I mean, in this instance, it's a former colleague of, Ayabonga Mjilo. And it just shows you that the perpetrators are not even far. These are people who are intimately known by women in the country.
And it says, let us draw from the HSRC report that was published in November 2024. Because one of the things we've been dealing with for the longest time as a country is we've been seeing gender-based violence escalate, not properly dealt with, but we would not get to a point where we had data or evidence that shows us where the problems are. In November 2024, a report by the HSRC started showing this information, that controlling behaviors, harmful gender norms are the things that we need to start to deal with. One of the things that I just found very important to share with you today that is from that report is that report indicates that out of all the men that were interviewed or that were engaged with, 77.2% of them confirmed engaging in controlling behavior. Right? Then if that's the reality, that's what our picture is as a country, because that's a national statistic. Dealing and just focusing on police and focusing on forensic, which is what we have to do to make sure that these perpetrators are brought to book. But we also get to a point where we say, how do we prevent us getting to this point? What are these controlling behaviors? If I go to a police station now and I report my partner is harassing me, my partner is shouting at me, my partner is threatening me, nothing is going to be done. If I report to my family, they are likely going to first start looking at me as a victim. What have you done wrong? So we've got to bring it close to ourselves to say, how are we dealing with controlling behavior? How are we stopping it to get to even to the point that our children are killed?
Yeah. And Pinky, why does it come out as a common feature? Because it's quite clear that it's something that, society battles to deal with. Controlling behavior, particularly in relationships, and it's quite clear and evident, with the evidence that has come forward.
One of the things that is also coming up is that we're not dealing with childhood abuse, physical abuse, exposure to abuse. And if you look in our toolboxes, I call it a toolbox, toolboxes of dealing either with unmet expectations, either dealing with crossed boundaries, either dealing with betrayal. Violence sits there in our toolbox in dealing with these things. We need to start saying that what should we be putting and teaching our children, getting men to also understand that in our toolbox of dealing with all these things of unmet expectations, boundaries that are being violated, betrayal, violence has got not to be an option. We need to remove violence from that toolbox and shift towards healthier options of dealing with these problems. So if you grow up being exposed to that, if your expectations are not met, or if there is lack of what you deem as obedience because you believe you are entitled to be listened to, you're entitled to be controlled, and if you don't get this, you then exact violence to get it, we're going to perpetually see these acts of violence coming. So we need to come to homes. We need to work with the perpetrators. It's easy academically to say what are the causes of factors, and we focus on the external factors. We focus on alcohol. We focus on socio-economic status and all these other important things that we should be focusing on and dealing with, but we forget to deal with the perpetrator itself.
Yeah.
Internally. Our mental health, our ability to regulate our emotions, and how we deal with disappointment, because that's the core of it. The perpetrator is the person that perpetrates and causes gender-based violence more than the alcohol, more than the disappointment and any other thing. So access to mental health is very important.
Yeah. And
as it stands.
And Pinky, before I let you go, you keep on talking a lot about control, and it also brings me to an issue that, resonates in our society with young girls, when it comes to the issue around control, really, and you find some young women saying comments like, if he doesn't beat me, then he doesn't love me. So it's quite clear that those are also controlling issues that we also need to get rid of in our society.
We've normalized having violence in the toolbox. Even us as women, we are the first to jump and protect a perpetrator and victimize a victim of gender-based violence or intimate partner, because we've normalized that he has to be behaving like this. And these are the gendered harmful behaviors that we get into, which is why it is important that as a country we have a coordinated response. So if I go to the police, he hasn't killed me yet, but I know he's threatening me. At the moment, you get turned back, right? Because there's no criminality into it. But the police do not have mechanisms to then link me to social services for our family to get counseling, for the perpetrator to be supported. As we stand here at 10 p.m., an angry man that's battling with his emotions has got no call center they can call and talk to somebody safely, access to counseling services, and really re-engineering and retraining ourselves
All right.
on how to regulate our emotions is what we've got to focus on.
All right, Pinky, thank you so much for that insight. Very important conversation there that needs to be had in the country when it comes to dealing with issues around gender-based violence. That's Pinky Mgobozi, founding director of MDI, an activist on gender-based violence and femicide.